to stay. She didn't move to Mexico, but I was touched that the book had that kind of power to reshape her view of a country.
Buenas noches, doctora Caimón. La verdad, gracias por esta maravillosa oportunidad. Bueno, después de lo de tu amigo Malacay, decidimos que teníamos que hablar contigo sobre tus libros. Hay una parte en la que voy a introducirme. Vámonos a Tamash. En el capítulo 238 habla sobre el amor no correspondido. Aunque siento un poco de curiosidad. Hay dos preguntas en una. Primera, ¿qué representa para usted la ficción del destino entre dos seres que suelen tener un futuro, pero, o sea, por los sentimientos, pero la vida no, por el mundo en que ellos viven, por el mundo paralelo?
I was asking Jhon because he's asking about a chapter from your novel that, in fact, I was going to tell you that I was reading it. I don't fully read it, but the things that I read, I really love it. So I got also a lot of questions. And yes, I remember that chapter in particular. It's called Damage, and it's talking about love, but maybe we can say the unrequited love. Tell us more about, yes, that subject, about the love that sometimes is not requited. If there is a spoiler, okay, don't do it, but you can tell us about it. But by the way, man, I am the things that I'm reading, man, I really enjoyed it, and it's great to see also the book cover from Celadon, because I really love how the elements of the, like we say, the myths from the Oriental and the Occident in the text. But let's talk about requited love and damage, man.
Wonderful. Well, I'm curious, before I talk about that, have either of you guys been to the town of Tulum at all? No.
No, I got this T-shirt, but it's an uncle from mine that traveled for, and I know it's near somewhere.
Yeah, no. Cancun is very close to Tulum, just about an hour by bus, maybe.
Not Tulum, but yes, Cartagena in Colombia. It's kind of it's around yeah. Tulum. Okay,
so yeah, as far as the chapter goes, it's as I'm sure you guys could see, that this is a story with two levels. It's a story about a man falling in love with a woman and vice versa. And it's also a story about a man who's falling in love with Mexico, or a place. I mean, it doesn't have to even be Mexico. It could be any place that somebody goes sort of fearful of or worried about. And then little by little, they start to uncover the joys and the beauty of being there. And I think that chapter interweaves both. It's interesting you'd pick up on the unrequited love, and it is tough to. I don't want to spoil it. It's a little hard to talk about that chapter, but I think the message there is that you may not get what you expect to get or what you want to get, but if you're open to what you see and what's around you, you can receive wonderful things as well. So in that, I think that, I mean, it's tough to say that there's a message in each particular chapter, because it's more like it connected and interwoven and sort of like a river. It carries you along. But I would say that chapter is both about loss and about discovery as well, in kind of linked together.
Man, we really needed to call our friend Cesar. I don't know if you remember it. He's from Mexico. So because it will be great to know about, man, we love Mexico. I don't know, Jhon, tú no has viajado a México, ¿no?
No, nunca. Ojalá, algún día.
So we hope someday nude Mexico, but yeah, it happened something crazy. I don't know if it's for the media. But there is a theory that say that Colombia and Mexico are similar, and both Colombians feed Mexican and vice versa. And yes, we freaking wanna go to Mexico. But I feel that in reading it, like it's not about the place, but about the unknown, not the fear, but the like the something is so I don't get the word, not mystical.
Yeah,
Okay.
spiritual, maybe?
Yes, spiritual.
Spiritual?
But the thing I want to ask you, John, gracias por dejarme esa pregunta. Mm, knowing that, yes, every chapter is like you say, they don't have to be intertwined. They got all his buys, and then it had something to do with we were talking about this Oriental flavor because you mentioned that we can say that Matt Goofing with the Murakami book, and I remember that he, and not only him, the Oriental directors love to do that, like short histories that then you somehow becomes a very big book because this is a very, very big book. This is like the influences from Murakami, or tell us more because, in fact, when I was reading that chapter, I got some friends that are readers and, oh my God, I'm reading a book that is told that got reference from Murakami, but it's great. Do you know the author? So we started talking. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that the book is starting your own conversations, and that's just a joy to hear as an author that the book, the characters, what they're doing is yeah, getting you guys to talk to your friends or think about things in a different way. It's wonderful. And I do think in both of, I mean, we're mostly talking about Sunsets of Tulum, but even though that's a book that's focused on Mexico, there's certainly some aspects of my own personal love for Japan in there, and some of the learning that I've had by being in Japan, and
wow.
But it's yeah, Murakami is one of my personal favorite writers, and I find myself coming back to certain books of his and just reading them again and again and loving them. But if I can go back in a moment to the question about damage, I sort of made not a mistake, but more specifically, damage is the chapter that's one of the chapters set in Boston, and I had sort of forgotten that was where that is, and that's an interesting chapter because he returns to Boston, and that's where he finally discovers what he really wants to do with himself, essentially. And sometimes you have to be home in order to know what you need to do, because travel is always a little different and shapes you and changes you. And then it's when you're home and you've been somewhere that you can process all that it meant and how valuable it was.
And I promise that when I end this book, there will be more conversations with my friends. No, it's crazy because now I'm in a crazy moment in my life, but I really wanted that crazy moment. Before I was doing horrible jobs. Now I'm doing a really cool job in the morning, in the midnight and morning. I sleep something, and I'm doing the channel with Jhon. But also I am managing 2 movie festivals, and I'm working in the third year in the boot fair from my city. So there is, oh man, they got me reading like it's great that there are great novels because sometimes they lend you some books that, oh man, no, please not, but no. But somehow I try to manage time to keep reading your book. And Jhon, no sé, ya le confesé todo. Cuéntale todo. No le he dicho lo otro, ¿no? Cuando tú me dices,
no, coméntale si quieres.
Pero que casi lo tuvimos.
Sí.
Bueno, there is an anecdote. Jhon asked me a favor to tell you. Man, it's crazy because I really want to know the whole history from Jhon, but we almost got here to Murakami, almost. and I don't know how he managed it. In fact, John, cuéntanos, sí. John,
Pues
tell us.
sucede y acontece que luego lo de Perry Edison, pues esa entrevista llegó en algunos medios, tanto filipinos, que fue compartida por Perry, por estudiantes de él, y de paso, hubo, pues, que me comenta que, no sé cómo se llama, se me olvida el nombre del colega, amigo, director,
El que
es,
dirigió Drive My Car,
eh,
Ryosuke Hamanada, creo que es.
exacto, entonces eso se le hizo, pues obviamente la compartió, quizás lo vería él, quizás no, y de repente pues ahí yo encontré contacto de la gente de Murakami de Estados Unidos, vio la entrevista de Perry Edison, le pareció interesante, y dijo, no, voy a pasárselo a la manager de él, de Jaén, pues allá, y se la hizo llegar, y la manager solo me dijo, yo se la envié, pero él es el que decide y de repente ella me dijo que él no aceptaba ya entrevistas, ya de partes sino escritas. Entonces yo dije, bueno, ¿cuándo así? Entonces ya me dijo que pues por el momento no estaba haciendo, pero dijo que vio la entrevista y que le pareció interesante, no más.
Right, it's great because I didn't know the full history, and that will let me also do you a question. Gracias, John. Wow, yes, we interview here the amazing Perry Dixon. He's one of the actors from Drive My Car, and you know all the boss that Drive My Car got. And somehow that interview, what the director from the movie watched it, and not only the director, but people that are linked to the movie, and somehow that came to the people that are close to, to Murakami. And so John write it to the press. I can say that the press from in front in both in Latin America, in America, sorry, North America. And he said that yes, Murakami is not accepting a lot of interviews. The only interviews that he accepts are written, but not now is not the time to do it. But somehow, and that's the crazy part, he knew about the interview, and but because it's crazy, with all the boss that, and I will ask John, siento que fuimos el único medio que habló de esa, pues habló con un actor de esa película.
Exacto.
With all the boss of that movie, we were the only medium that really talks with one of the actors from that movie. So, and that will let me do the question. I don't know if there is a spoiler or not, but in your novel, you mentioned what book of Murakami is, or do you prefer to get with that mystery of what Murakami book is the one that joins this couple?
Oh, you mean will
I to ask it?
will I give it away by saying the actual book that he's reading? Is that the question? That
No, that would be a spoiler. Yes,
I think it's funny because the Murakami book, I don't think that I actually name the book. I think I just talk about it, that she's reading it and there was actually that I didn't want to offend him. Of course, these days you can have all kinds of problems happen if you assume too much. And I at first wanted to get permission to use a title of the book, and I wasn't able to get. I tried a bunch of different ways. I contacted the press agent and some various publisher leads, and I wasn't able to get any official permission. So I didn't use the title, but you can't sue somebody for saying they're reading a book by a certain author.
Yes.
So that's why I did it. But there was definitely a very specific book that I had in my mind. And if you notice in the first pages, there's another part where she sings a song.
I know what.
Tin,
tin, tin, tin, tin, tin, tin, tin, tin. I only say that.
Yeah. So she does the makes up her own lyrics to this song, but I even wanted to make sure that that was not a problem. So I talked to the writer and the band. It's Men Without Hats, I believe. And they were super nice, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, that's great. Go ahead, no problem." So that was used officially with permission. There,
you're talking about the safety dance.
Yeah, safety dance. The thing is, you can shave if you want to. You can some things, but yeah. So, but they were wonderful. But you do have to be as I think, especially as a writer, where something's in print, you have to be very careful about not upsetting somebody by just assuming that they're okay with what you say. I wanted to congratulate you guys. It's been such a treat to see, and sometimes I don't listen to each and every one, but I do love seeing them, and I frequently tune in and listen to your interviews from so many different people and different actors and actresses and professions. It's really magical, and I loved what you said, Jhon. I want to say it was maybe a month ago or something. You said, "I really believe that I will, in 10 years, I'll have been interviewing some of the world's most interesting people," and good for you. It's really amazing that to see somebody stick with something and put time and effort into it. And congratulations to both of you.
Gracias. Thank you.
Gracias.
Arigato. Jhon, preguntas.
De nada.
In Japanese, how we say it?
No, arigato.
Arigato
gozaimasu. Japanese is difficult because the politeness varies. It's not like English or Spanish where you can be like, "Thank you," and it works no matter who you're talking to.
Yes.
So depending on the context, you might be more polite than I would be, or maybe the other way around. Like if you're a really famous president, you wouldn't say "thank you very much" to somebody like me. But if you're it's just so arigato would be the quick way, like among friends, or maybe you would say arigato gozaimasu to your boss, and then there's other ways to say it, like arigato de gozaimasu. Like you'll hear, it makes it very difficult when you're over there trying to listen, because you'll think somebody's saying thank you, but it won't sound like the word you memorized. So.
Okay. Jhon, ¿tenemos preguntas?
Por supuesto, de hecho, yo, bueno, voy a resumirla porque es que en el capítulo de Hezbollah, yo sé que él habla de Murakami, obviamente no puede decir por derecho, pero yo le quiero preguntar algo. En esta parte de Hezbollah, en ese capítulo habla sobre las inundaciones del infierno y tiene tanta influencia este gran escritor. Me pareció a Escucha el viento o es la chica de cumpleaños, pero me pareció como un poco como que, como haciéndole como un homenaje a no solo a él, sino también en qué expresividad tiene acerca de la literatura cuando se retrata el infierno. O sea, ¿qué perspectiva tiene sobre eso?
Sobre el infierno.
Sí, y los libros, pues yo se los menciono.
Okay. No, that's a great question from Jhon. There is a chapter that talks about a flood, and somehow it refers to hell. I will sum up the full question. And yes, what is your vision about hell? I don't know if in literature or in the hell that these characters lead, most in that chapter. It's a great question, man.
Yeah, no, it's an excellent question. That chapter is it is a complex one for me, because I happen to come through Yucatan right after one of the most devastating hurricanes that they had, and I don't believe the scene is still in the book, but literally a whole ferry had been lifted up and taken inland, like a ferry from Playa del Carmen to Cozumel, those are big ferries, and it had just been lifted up and carried hundreds of yards in, and there were still boats in the trees. It was just amazing. Of course, the towns had mostly recovered by then, and that chapter is, I think personally, I'm not very religious. In fact, I would say I'm not religious, which is very different from many in Latin America and Central America and Mexico. It's usually, I don't want to make too many generalities, but it's usually Catholicism, fairly Catholic. So the idea of heaven and hell would be very present in the characters' minds there. And I wanted to present how the characters might interpret this, each of them in a different way. And I believe it's Marisol is saying it was just like hell. It was a torment. So that's why the word is used in that context. Certainly, I also love the idea of the human spirit and determination pulling people out of that. Like there's a lot of community that as Colombians, perhaps you grow up with and understand on a natural way, but in the United States, there's kind of we don't have big families, and there's sort of a pride in your children growing independent and moving away and going somewhere. And I've always loved and felt very comfortable in the Latin American big family, everybody kind of together in a community, in a way that I don't here in America, and I sort of miss that. I wish America had more sense of community and togetherness. So in that chapter, I was also bringing forth and trying to show, because most of the people, I'm actually really proud of you guys for reading it as, English isn't your native language, perhaps. Most of my readership are people not just who speak English, but people who maybe have never gone to Mexico. So for them, I really wanted to present a realistic Mexico that shows the determination and the courage of the people there in a positive and beautiful light, even in these horrible events, which still happen. I mean, every hurricane that comes through is devastating and doesn't always do this kind of damage. There have been a lot of improvements in the past 10 years in that area, but it's still a scary event, and people lose their homes, or sometimes lose their lives, and it's very sad.
Two things. First, thank you, and in fact, I had to congratulate Jhon because somehow I'm bilingual, but I learn by myself, but somehow, but Jhon is learning, so he's telling me that he was reading with the Google Translator. I was
Google
what?
Translate.
And Jhon, that's crazy because sometimes Google doesn't translate very well. So for me, it's a kudos. And no, man, thank you for the things that you tell us, because you made me remember I'm a journalist and I live in one of the most touristy places in Colombia, that is San Gil. I don't know if you have read about San Gil. And man, I remember there was a week that happened, a really terrible tragedy. It was like an avalanche.
Landslide or avalanche. Yeah.
Yes, terrible. I had to cover it as a journalist. But I remember the previous day, there was rain, so many rain, and it was crazy because I had to watch to a North American looking to the street because it was flood and flood, and he was like, oh my god, they, yes, they don't got a really well system of I could say alcantarillado.
Draining?
Yes,
Drainage?
a really well rain, and I was telling him that, oh man, yes, we love, yes, we are in one of the most beautiful cities, I think, even from South America. In fact, San Gil is just 10 minutes from Barichara, the city from Encanto, the movie Encanto. But I was telling, man, it's terrible because not all the money that you people bring here, there is stolen from the government, and there is so much corruption. There is no drainage. There are no signals on the streets. And the next day happens that, and I think that he had to see how we were together because yes, I was journalist, but I was also helping people to get her seen. Oh man, that was terrible. The flood was there are 5 houses that get so flooded to the ceiling. It was and tragically one kid died, but there are things that had to, so thank you for showcasing. In fact, what is the impression that the readers are getting about the novel, but mostly about Latin America because uh, you know, as a Latino, I, I don't read it like we say. I'm not a person with prejudice, but I know sometimes people get, sometimes you don't get, people are not getting happy. Sometimes, this offend me. But no, I feel even in the parts that you're talking about some things that were really specific, I'd say that no, but we are Latinos, we're Latin. In fact, I like the image about the Latino community that you get there. So just what are the impressions that people are giving you about the novel and this part?
Yeah. Well, it's such a relief. I mean, I'm thrilled to hear you say that because for me, as a writer, obviously as a guest in Mexico, even though I've been there so many times, I feel like it's my country as much as anyone's. It's I think it's very challenging and important to paint, to not just be stereotypical in painting another culture and I feel like so much of it, I don't know what the impression is in Colombia, but in the United States, so much of the news that we get in here is negative. It's all about the murders, the cartels, the drugs, the beheading. Like there is so much focus and very unfair focus on that type of news when 2 million people a year go to Cancun, and how many tourists have any problem, have anything other than a great time when they go to Cancun? There is almost, and I don't want to say none because there is crime, of course, but in writing this book, I wanted to show somebody that is willing to give a new place a chance and gets deeply rewarded. Like Mexico changes him, and he falls in love with being there in the country as much as the person that sort of sparks it all. And I'm really thrilled to hear that you feel that was painted with sensitivity and realism, because I certainly tried hard, and I think in today's world it's very challenging, and people are very touchy, especially and I don't want to say that there's not a lot of reason for that. It's important that everybody be aware of how deeply a casual remark or a casual word can hurt somebody else. And personally, in my own experience, and I kind of joke to people that ask, like, it's like, do I look like I'm Mexican? No, I don't look Mexican. I've been walking around Ciudad Juarez, Tijuana, Mexicali, some of the world, Guatemala City, some of the world's most dangerous places. I'm there with my, working. I'm trying to get hotel information or do these things. 1 a.m, I'm walking by myself through places that, are considered very dangerous. And I feel like if crime were to commonly happen to somebody that's not looking for it, and that's a really important thing, that people that are looking for crime, buying drugs, looking for prostitutes, anything that's illegal, that's a whole different story, because you can find really scary stuff anywhere, really. I'm sure it's in, your city, it's in back home here where I am, it's in Mexico, but that's a different story. And in my case, I am, so far away from that world that even if it's happening on a different street, people don't bother me. A lot of, not a lot of times, but a few times somebody's even come up to me and said, "Hey man," or, in Spanish or Mexican Spanish, "Hey way," it's "Hey way," and tattooed, gang cap, all this. Hey,
Chicano.
why are you here? Yeah, güero is another one. Why are you walking around here? I'm like, "Oh, I'm a travel writer. I'm doing research." And they're like, "There's a bar on that corner. Don't go in that bar. That's not a good bar for." I'm like, "Thank you. I'll avoid that bar." It's like, "Thanks for the tip." So I just want to write, and I, again, in my Celadon book, the same sort of thing. I think there's misunderstandings, cliches, stereotypes that are very easy for a writer to fall into, partly because that's, like, the reason it's all in the news is because that's what people want to read. And they want to hear, "Oh, Mexico's so dangerous." And I'm not going to give them that. I'm going to try to give them complicated, interesting characters and not true. There's only a few places that I would say are true in this novel, but real life Mexico as I perceived it. And yeah, great question. I appreciate the chance to answer that, because a lot of people don't really want to hear that. If there's time for one quick funny little anecdote, though, you asked about, like, what are my readers thinking or feeling. One of my book clubs, a wonderful book club in Kentucky, which is traditionally very Republican red, sort of not a liberal place, but the book club, they were all very liberal. Some of them married, mostly all of them were women, some of them married, some of them not. They flew me out to Frankfort, Kentucky, and I joined the book club, talked about things, and then I got a email from one of them afterwards that said, I just I want you to know this book made such a big impression on in my life, and I'm thinking about moving to Mexico." And I don't want to go too deeply into the details. It was sort of a personal letter, and I felt very honored to receive that kind of thing from a fan. But my caution was that it was kind of a sudden thing to read a book and then move to Mexico. And what's right in fiction is not always what's right in real life. You have to be careful about adopting these stories too much. And she eventually decided to stay. She didn't move to Mexico, but I was touched that the book had that kind of power to reshape her view of a country. So.
Y no sé si será duro para responderle a Raymond, pero bueno, te la voy a decir con calma.
Hazla.
Creo yo, no sé, usted sabe más de libros, Andrés, que mi persona. Yo sí he leído libros, pero no tanto como usted. y no tanto como Raymond, pero sí puedo decirle que viendo el libro y varios libros, Raymond es la primera persona en detallar la Ciudad de México, de que los ojos de nosotros lo vemos como el filtro de una película. Es decir, que cuando uno viaja a México, nuestro cerebro nos hace ver la calema, el anaranjado del paraíso. Es decir, retratamos a México como el calema. Entonces, esa es la primera vez que yo visualicé en el libro y en los libros, no sé si hay más, pero hasta el momento yo puedo decir firme que Raymond ha descubierto, obviamente, que nosotros automáticamente no es por la película, sino porque anteriormente las cámaras, las scan-in, son naranjadas, eran naranjadas, entonces la asociamos con que fueron México, que tuvieron como un poquito las primeras, entonces nos hace ver la calema. O sea, vemos a México como un calema. Entonces, le quiero preguntar cómo descubrió el calema para que pues nosotros tuviéramos como la percepción de ver a México como como el filtro, como se ve en las películas, en la serie, todo. No sé.
Don't worry, I understand. John, they say something really long, but I understand it. I will. No, man. You there is like a joke in internet that there's a Mexican filter, no? You know that the movies that are shot in Mexico got this type of color, but there is also a reality that some movies that were shot in the past years got that filter because of the camera. There is and that term is calema, that color, that Mexican color, and he felt that this would really describe it, but with the real colors. Like, yes, you are watching it with this orange sky, but not the orange sky that you. So no, sorry, because we had interview with people from that series, but series like Breaking Bad or something that we're going to Mexico. So yes, how do you manage to get that colors from the sky? Because Jhon felt that this would really show us, yes, this orange sky, but not the one that movies are showing us, but the real old movies, like the real colors of Mexico. I know it's a crazy question, but
no,
do a favor from the men.
It's a wonderful question, and what I would say is that I actually used to be very interested in acting myself and watch a lot of films and have always loved cinema myself, and I think my writing encompasses some of that. So there's in some ways a cinematic aspect to the scenes that I paint and the way that I'm forming the dialogues and that sort of thing. But I would say that there is something magical about Mexican light. And in writing this, I really wanted to bring that to the book. So in saying that there's a Mexican filter in the camera, it's sort of partly because there's this, it's certainly very different from being where I'm from. Up in New England, the light is thinner and colder and just not as heavy. And in Mexico, especially in that part, in Tulum and Yucatan, it just has that aspect of it, and is I think part of why the country is so special. It's why it's so beautiful for painting. I sort of have a dream I would love Sunsets of Tulum to become a movie. I think that would be fantastic. And who knows, maybe someone will see it or think that or whatever. But I think it's a great question. All of these questions, Jhon, are fantastic.
Wow, I will translate that part, Jhon. ¿Qué le gustaría ver Sunsets of Tulum como una película?
Wow, sí.
No sé, le hago la pregunta que quiero hacerle. Si de pronto
claro.
con quien estuvo acá en el canal o algo. Pero before I do this question, because yes, we want to see it in a movie. First, a bit sorry, but of course we are great fans from Breaking Bad. Sorry, Charles Baker, they were in the channel. Michael Chamos Wiles and Larry Hankin, we love your work, but yes, there is a Joe in the internet that said that there is a filter from the scene that are doing, and they will understand it. And man, I don't know if it had something to do with our friend Malachi, but yes, if you see this booth, yes, taken to the view screen. I don't know some names, some director. I don't know what will be your dreamcast because yes, in fact, there is so much cinematic elements in this. I don't know if for a movie or for a series, but in fact, I'm also a writer, a published writer, and I really love to write. And it's a small book, but I really love to write as a cinematic way. Every page is like a scene, and someday that will be. You can tell us more about how will be your dream cast or the dream or man, because it was crazy that knowing you here with Malachi, I don't know, you would like to work with him. In fact, how did you guys met? This is crazy because did you want to tell us?
Malachi is just such a nice person. He and I met in high school at a summer camp for gifted and talented creative types. It wasn't just for acting. I think I was there. I might have gone in for acting, but at the time I loved acting. I loved writing, and there was something. Oh, and art. All of those three things. I thought, and every person there was just a very talented young actor or artist or musician or writer, and that's how we hit it off. If you scroll through my Instagram feed, at this point you'd have to scroll for a while, but I posted a picture of Malachi, myself, and another friend. It was sort of the three of us were inseparable at that time, and you guys after the show look for that because you'll crack up. It's a great picture. But yeah, we've been in touch by phone a couple times since the interview, and he was here on Cape Cod just a couple days ago, but unfortunately we didn't get to connect. That was a sad thing, but hopefully soon. We're trying, and but yeah, as far as the dream cast, I would have to take time to think about that. I would hate to, I'd have to think very careful. I do have a screenplay of a something that I think Pete Davidson would be absolutely perfect for. It's just like that is a comedy movie, and in my mind's eye, I just think he would be exactly the right person for this. But
like that movie he made from the hotel, how was Hot Springs, Palm Springs.
Wasn't he and it was like about him, sort of autobiographical, right? Him and his mom, or is that the one you're talking?
I will search because in fact I was thinking about somehow he as an actor, and I remember that movie. I will say that yes, Palm Springs, yes, the one.
Oh, okay.
That he is in like in a hotel. I don't know. I will search for that movie, but yeah, man. Igual tras de Jhon. Solo te diré algo. Creo que oíste un nombre. ¿Te imaginas a un Pete Davidson?
Uy, man.
Y que acá hay una trivia, ¿no? Por favor, busca bien en el Instagram. Raymond dice que abajo hay una foto donde él aparece con Malachi. And I think the movie is The King of Staten Island. Yeah. No, I was confusing it, but yeah.
King of Staten Island. King of Staten Island is the one. Yep.
Wow. Jhon, lo que tú digas, mi amigo.
No, dale un fuerte aplauso.
Oh.
No, great. No. No, man, qué increíble entrevista, la verdad nos ha encantado muchísimo. No, primero agradecerle algo que descubrí es el calema. Algo así siempre se lo interpretará usted y no, men, este es tu espacio. tus redes sociales, dónde pueden adquirir sus libros. Yo visualicé que en Amazon aún falta como, creo que es Amazon que tiene problemas, pero dónde pueden consultar su libro a través de su página web, dónde pueden visualizar más su fotografía, porque también es fotógrafo. Sebastián para la próxima debe estar ahí.
Wow. Okay. Yes. No, in fact, we were thinking to invite later to a friend that on the channel that is photographer because we know that you also are a photographer. No, man, the camera is yours. Send a big hi to whatever you want, to the channel, to your friends, and tell your social media so people can follow you. And yes, tell the people where they can find your books.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for having me. It's just been such a pleasure. I would love to thank my family for supporting me in all of this strange, wild writing ride. It's not always easy being the family of a writer, but hopefully there's some perks. And also all my friends, my readers, the people, my publisher. Thank you, Al Waite at Barrel Fire Press. And if you are interested in reading Sunsets of Tulum or Celadon, they are available everywhere on all the major channels. You can also find, if you're interested in a signed copy, which isn't ideal for the out of country people because shipping ends up being very expensive, but sometimes people want that. I'm happy to ship internationally signed copies. I don't know if hardcover is still available, but definitely both are available in paperback at my website, which is kaisora.com. That's KAISORA.com. And if you just look up Ray Bartlett, that's another way to look up Ray Bartlett. You'll probably find me, Ray Bartlett, travel writer. Yeah, it's such a pleasure.
Thank you for giving the direction because yes, I put Ray Bartlett and I found but not much info as I wanted to find. So I know that with Kaisora I will find all the info that I wanted to know more.
If you do Ray Bartlett travel writer, that might be enough. There's a couple of other Ray Bartletts out there. One of them was famous in baseball and died, and that's the dead one. Isn't me, of course. But Ray Bartlett travel writer in Google should bring up me at least near the top. Where did you two meet? I'm curious where you guys met.
This is the answer. I knew about Jhon when I was working in San Gil as a journalist, and it was crazy because here we tell it like I was doing journalism, but I don't know how do you say it. The tabloid journalism. Here in Colombia, the tabloid journalism is mostly crimes and bad things. I was doing tabloid journalism in Santander, and it was crazy because I was near from one of the most beautiful cities in the world, that is Barichara, and doing that kind of news. I read about a young man that directed a movie in Cucuta called Operación Agramón. And I was, wow, that's great. But I'm so far away from my city. That's happened. Later, in all the process, all the hard work pays because, yes, I published my book. It doesn't sell too much, but I publish it, so it's great for me. And
great.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. And when I came back to my city because I was far, I went to the boot fair from my city that now I work on, but I get 2% the boot with other writers from the same editorial because it's an independent and small editorial. And Jhon went, and I didn't know about Jhon. But I was, wait, you are the guy from the movie? Yes, we take a picture. Okay. I don't know where he had me, I don't know, or on the social media. And it's crazy because he grabbed me one day and told me, And Andres, do you wanna appear on an interview project that I'm doing? It wasn't not the channel. It was like a project from the university. Sure. And I found out that the person that he was interviewing was Ari Letman from Friday the 13th. It was, man, that's Ari Letman. And the rest of the people were, yes, man, that's Ari Letman. Okay. What happened? Later, John may have context. John will let me tell that. There was like previously there was a translator. Yeah, he's more hands-on and he talks English better than myself. But he didn't comprehend that the channel is not about him. The channel is about the people that we buy. And the channel it's always on fire. The channel really started amazing because John invited people from. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Pasa, William? Okay, sorry. The channel was inviting
for a sec.
But you can listen.
Yeah, now you're fine.
John will edit this. Okay. The channel was inviting people from, like we say, people from Breaking Bad, all these big series, and that person was fan from the series. But mostly the chapters were he talking about Breaking Bad with the guessing was, and they did more things. Well, okay. That person later, it wasn't interested in the channel because the channel started growing, and John started inviting people. And what I like about, because John started like, man, you can do me the favor to translate because the other person don't want to translate, because tomorrow I will interview somebody that only do B movies. And I was, sure, man. I love movies. I was working on a horrible tabloid for 5 years, doing news that I don't want it. If you tell me that you want invite me to interview people about movies, the thing that I love, go ahead. And the rest is history, man. The other man really screwed out one day that John, cuento lo de Larry Hankin, ¿cierto? Ya que hay tiempo. We got 10 minutes. One day in the channel appeared Michael Chamos Walsh, the amazing actor. And we were talking great histories with Michael Chamos Walsh about he working with David Lynch and all. And somehow that person came just right at the end and start talking about things about Breaking Bad. Okay, just well. And I'm telling that, oh, I'm the translator. Yo le estoy contando la historia, tú verás si la coloco o no.
No.
Later, when he did this a really bad thing because we invited Haley Holmes from Better Call Saul, and this person invited a lot of people that had nothing to do with the channel and started. Yes, man, it was terrible because these people don't show their faces. I don't know, they were spies. I don't know. And later, when Larry Hankin appeared, this person started with some ego, and we were like, and I was, man, this is not good from this channel because this channel is a project of love and we don't need egos. What we got people with those amazing careers and they are not showing us ego, they are showing us that why us from this small city we're going with egos. We haven't made John, yes, but we haven't made like a big movie from Hollywood, so we're learning, man. This is a process for learning. I know it takes some time, but that's how I met John. But in person, we had seen like 4 or 5 times, and we're in the same city. So it's crazy.
Nice.
John, ahí conté todo, tú verás si editas o no.
No, yo lo dejo.
It's like a friend, but no, the one thing is one thing, and another thing is another thing. He did a great job. He did a great job because he got a very beautiful voice. But no, man, this channel, it wasn't, and it never will be for the fame, for the money.
You never know. You never know. Like everybody gets a start, you know, and if you stick, it's amazing what you can do if you stick with something and do a little bit and just keep chipping away and do it for love and something because it's something you love doing. But over time, that just, you know, you'll develop an incredible collection of interviews that will show, you know, be fascinating for people to look back on and hear, and different people in different parts of their careers and their lives and all that. It's really amazing.
But I will did this question from the ego, from Jhon and myself.
This is your first interview in Latin America, or your second, your third? Tell us.
Well,
We wanna know.
technically, yes, because Mexico is not part of Latin America. But I have done a book circuit in Mexico, and so if you consider the Spanish-speaking world, then it would not be the first. But I am, yeah, this would be the first interview officially in Latin America. So I'm excited.
I will tell to Jhon. Jhon, si le dices la pregunta, pues le digo, primera entrevista en Latinoamérica. Porque ya tuvo unas en México, pero pues México técnicamente es Norteamérica. No te preocupes, no lo edites. Yo después dije, igual editas México, Centroamérica. No, México es Norteamérica.
Oh yeah, no, it's
don't worry,
that's a
don't
mistake. A lot of people, you know, most Americans or United States don't think of Mexico as North America either. So you're not alone, Jhon.
No, gracias por la oportunidad. Gracias, Raymond, por la oportunidad nuevamente. Y no, gracias. En serio.
No, ustedes también. Muchas gracias. Thank you so
my
much.
pleasure.
That's
Esto, you're
This is
welcome.
your house.
This is your house.
Thank you.
You're welcome every time, man.
Bye
Yeah.
bye. Good night.
Thanks so
Good
much.
weekend.
Be well.
Good weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good
Bye
weekend.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.